Hey you guys, welcome. And if you're brand new to my channel, welcome for the first time. I'm glad you're here. If you're one of my subscribers or you usually watch my content, welcome back. And this video is going to be a little bit different from what I've been working on recently. Recently, I've been doing the series on sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences, multidimensional travel, the beings and entities that people report feeling, seeing, and presences that they report during those times, and just working on a series of things of all things spiritual, which is a part of my channel that I've been wanting to get to for a long number of years. But I'm not going to stop doing the usual content, the other stuff that, started the channel, the stuff I was doing in the past. I've still got a lot of videos to go back and build onto and subjects to finish. I am not particularly into crime. I don't do crime on my channel. It's not something that I just for any random reason. I think that all the cases in the world that happen to innocent people and victims are sad. They deserve attention. They deserve acknowledgement, but we just can't cover them all. There are reasons why certain people run across certain things and they are moved to speak about it, okay? So there are times on my channel. My channel is a cross between psychological, spiritual, and philosophical things. I generally keep it within that umbrella. There isn't a particular niche. It's a pretty big umbrella. But most of my videos will always end up having some type of discussion or message within them that will boil down to something that we can find awareness from, that we can find insight and knowledge and grow from, either in a psychological way or in a spiritual way, or just, philosophical way. So that's pretty much the gist of my channel. Now, I'm gonna hop over to this video today because there are two cases that caught my attention today. Now, you all know who follow my channel, the Watts case is one of the primary cases that I have covered here on this channel. Like I said, there will be times where for some reason I will be moved to speak on a case. And generally it'll be because there are some dynamics within that case that move me, that I can relate to, that I'm experienced with, something within it, the energy of it that I can see and give some insight on. Generally it'll be for those reasons. I can't really explain why certain cases I am called on in my soul to speak up about and spread awareness on certain things, and others I'm not, but it is what it is. So there is the Watts case. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Selena Quintanilla, and I have also started doing videos on her case, which is a very old case now. It's going on 30 years old, but her light and the people who love her, that love for her goes on forever. I am a huge fan of hers. And so that whole situation with she and Yolanda Saldivar, which to me is almost a parallel, similar things were going on in the Watts case. So those two cases, yes, I've spoken about them quite a bit on the channel. Now, let me jump on topic here. I needed to kind of be careful what I said in the first few minutes of this video. Let me just go ahead and little disclaimer here, guys. My videos are for educational purposes only, okay? These are my thoughts, feelings, and perspectives and experiences on certain topics, okay? But the case that I'm getting ready to tell you guys about, you may or may not be aware of it. It is brand new to me. I just ran across it today. Actually, two cases caught my attention today. The first one is the girl who is an OnlyFans model, Courtney Clemmy, is it? Courtney Clenny or Courtney Clemmy. Okay, I'm not as knowledgeable about hers. I didn't stay on that one too long, but it did really kind of get to me today, and I got wrapped up in it. I think I heard about it when it first happened, but I wasn't too knowledgeable about that case. The OnlyFans girl named Courtney, who got into an argument with her boyfriend, Christian, and stabbed him, and he died from this. This is just an argument. And so I got to watching the interviews and that whole case today, and I'm going to delve deeply off into that one at another time. But in this video today, what we're going to talk about a little bit, we're going to at least kick it off, okay? I might do a couple, I might have to follow up with a second part, but we're going to talk about Sarah Boone, okay? A woman named Sarah Boone who was from Florida. She was 42. She and her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, were both 42 at the time of this incident. And they were living in Florida, and this was around the time of the pandemic. After I watched several interviews with her, flashes of her being in court, speaking with the judges, and the interrogation or the interview with the detectives. After I watched quite a bit of that, I moved on to reading more deeply about, because I even had curiosity. This is brand new to me. You know, why didn't I hear about it back then? I don't know. Some of you may not even be aware of it. This happened February 24th, 2020, okay? And I'm kind of on the page right now for reference for you guys. But February 4th, 2020. So this is right when the pandemic was about to kick off. This is like right at that jump off point. I remember it was late February, early March when, boom, the whole country just went shut down. So we weren't full on in the middle of the pandemic yet, where we were seeing that spike in domestic violence and where people really were starting to just absolutely lose their minds from being cooped up together and all this kind of thing. It was still at the very beginning. And in fact, I don't even know if the country had been shut down yet at this point. But that is when this occurred one night, February 24th, 2020, okay? Where Sarah Boone and her boyfriend had had a bottle of wine this night, and they decided that it would be fun to play hide and seek. So, from what Sarah Boone has told us, they thought it would be fun for Jorge to get into the suitcase. Yes, this is the woman who put her man into a suitcase and left him to die. Left him to suffocate while she went upstairs and went to bed. Passed out, drunk. Okay? And so, you know, and immediately I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What happened here? But yeah, apparently, and my first question was, whoa, how did she get this grown-ass man in this damn suitcase? Or why would he agree to even get in a suitcase? And furthermore, how the hell could he not get out of a suitcase? Was there not any way to, like, dig your fingers through, or any way possible to get out? I still have questions about that, y'all. But anyway, so this case really kind of, it kind of hit home. It kind of got to my heart, because there are some dynamics of this case that do hit home for me. And, you know, just losing my partner last year, he passed away from throat cancer. He was 46. And we had had a turbulent relationship almost 7 years prior to that. And he himself was a severe alcoholic. So when I hear things about people drinking and being alcoholic and, you know, terrible things happening to other people because of alcohol, it does. It really gets to me, okay? And so, yeah, apparently Sarah Boone claims that they were having a nice night. They were doing some art, putting puzzles together, having a fine old time, had a bottle of wine, and decided to play hide and seek. And he and she both think it would be funny for him to climb into this suitcase and she zip it up. And, you know, I still have a lot of questions. I still don't get it. And later on, though, okay, I'm gonna read a little bit to you guys just to get it out in a more concise way. But later on, it comes out that she was so drunk that she actually filmed video footage of this on her phone after zipping him in there, and he had been in there for a bit, and he's asking her to let him out. And you can hear him going, you know, calling her name, Sarah, let me out, babe, let me out. I can't breathe in here. You know, and after a bit, you kind of get the feeling, okay, look, this isn't fucking funny anymore. This is not a joke. This guy is suffocating. And we can hear Sarah standing there with her own cell phone, scoffing, mocking, giggling, and obviously, clearly drunk out of her mind, slurring. A lot of her words are, you really can't make them out. And she's saying taunting things like, you know, too bad. Oh, well, that's what I felt when you cheated on me. And, you know, that's what it's. Now, don't take me for 100% here, but it seems like I heard her say, that's what it was like when you were choking me. This is for all the things you've done to me. You know, tough, you know, basically mocking him, letting him know he's not getting out. And then she proceeds to go up to bed, passes out, doesn't wake up until noon the next day. This is fucking 12 hours later. Comes downstairs, dawns on her that she has passed out and left him in there and that he never came up, or I don't know if she expected him to get out. Maybe she left some of it unzipped, so she claims. I don't know what she expected, but she went upstairs and passed the hell out and came back down and found her man dead. And reported that she proceeded to give CPR. She called her ex-husband to come over. Then they called authorities, but she apparently tried to give her boyfriend CPR. And she said he gurgled, whatever that meant. I mean, it just, I'm sorry, but this case, it's one of these things that really kind of grabbed me. And it grabbed my heart, and it paints a horrific picture. And knowing that alcohol is involved in this, it got me even worse. And I just feel called to speak on it a little bit, okay? Share a little bit about it and spread some awareness and just, you know, put my thoughts out there. I will say this, okay? There are people taking different sides here. I will say this, that they do have a history of domestic violence. That there are reports in the past where Sarah Boone filed charges against Jorge Torres for attacking her, for domestic violence upon her. I don't know the extent of those attacks. I don't know what all exactly was involved. You know, those things could be as severe as beating and black eyes and choking and violent attacks, or, you know, domestic violence has a lot of levels. Or it could have been something like, you know, pushing her or maybe fending her off of him. You know, I know men who have gotten domestic violence charges for that. Now, it really just all depends. So we don't exactly know. But I do know that they have a history of domestic violence. And every time she would file charges on him, she would go and bail him out of jail, which is typical, okay? I have a long history in my family. Lots of experience and a long history, unfortunately. I was raised in a very abusive and traumatic family, very violent family, all kinds of things going on. Father was an alcoholic. Different relationships in my early life, experience with that. Lots of experience with addicts and addiction and alcoholics. Mental illness runs in my family, different personality disorders, different anxiety disorders. And I've had a lot of experience with this stuff. I will say it is a thing, you know, those of you that aren't aware, in toxic relationships, people who were born into toxic families who saw their parents acting toxically. For instance, my mother and father, my father being a very violent, abusive, alcoholic, very controlling. My mother developed battered women syndrome because, yes, there were times where he would beat her and hit on her. And she would not leave him, you know, but she would try to do certain things. Like I remember when we were little kids, you know, she would take us to talk to people and she would try to get some help, but there were so many of us. They have 6 kids together total. 5 of us were at home. The older one left. So battered women syndrome is a thing where a woman will be being abused by a man, but she has this syndrome that she cannot leave him. She will make attempts to do something, knowing that she should do something, but it's just too hard to break away from him due to her own self-esteem issues, her own lack of training, her own lack of support system, her own lack of financing. Many, many things factor in. Codependency on one another. Codependency can be very toxic and very deadly, meaning not just depending on someone for your fucking finances, but codependency is like a drug addiction. It is where you haven't developed yourself on the inside enough to even have a self-worth, to even know what is my purpose in this world and my identity. What do I do besides be married to this person? Besides loving this person? Besides doing things with this person? Who am I outside of that? What is my identity? What am I here for? What's valuable about me? You would not believe the people that cannot answer that don't know anything outside of being codependent on another human being or something external to themselves for their ego and validation and very survival. They're very emotional, mental survival. And it doesn't just have to be romantic. It's not exclusive to just marriages or romantic relationships. People can be codependent on their children. They can be codependent on friends. They can be codependent on just about anyone. Have a certain type of relationship to where their very existence. For instance, Selena Quintanilla and the little Mexican-American singer, beautiful girl in her very early 20s who was killed back in 1995 by her fan club president, aka biggest fan, quote, quote, Yolanda Saldivar, who I firmly believe was a covert narcissist and had erotomania and just worshiped Selena and this, that, and the other. But it was all for clout and ego and control and to fill that hole inside of her. Okay, that was a very codependent type of situation. And she was trying to suckle Selena into becoming codependent as well, although Selena was raised in a decent and pretty normal, other than the singing and traveling, loving, normal family dynamic. Yolanda Saldivar was very, very codependent on Selena for her entire existence. She became more and more that way, letting go of her life, her job, her identity, and becoming everything Selena. So when a person is that codependent, this is why it's dangerous. You could be codependent on a friend, somebody you admire, your child, and it's just not healthy. Now, we all know we love our children, and we would, put ourselves in front of a speeding car for them. We would, die for them. We say that. Of course we would, to protect them. But the thing is, it is very unhealthy to cross certain lines where you have no other reason on this earth to be living here and focused on just that one thing. Because if something ever happens to that one thing, that romantic partner, that best friend, that child, whatever, you will be shattered. You will find yourself suddenly thrust into, it's hard anyway for any person, even a person who has, a good self-esteem and sense of self-worth and a good strong identity and purpose in the world, all on their own, and a good well-rounded connections with all of their loved ones. It's hard enough for even them. They are going to be thrust into terrible shock and grief and pain and horror and all of that, losing that person, losing those people. But for a person who is codependent, it is 1,000 times worse. They find themselves suddenly in a world of absolutely nothing. And don't get me wrong, even regular people feel that way. So imagine how it is for a codependent person who feels on the inside that life is not worth living without that human here, that they absolutely have no other life, no other reason for being. There's just, and I get it, because we feel deeply, we love people. I felt that deeply before, but at the same time, I'm very thankful that I had a therapist in my younger years and that I could get some training on some of this stuff that I was raised in, all of those twisted patterns and whatnot, because feeling deeply is a wonderful thing, but also knowing how to cope and having some emotional intelligence and how to balance those things out is absolutely crucial, because going that far overboard can really, really be dangerous. It really can. And it can be really, really hard on people. So back to Sarah Boone and her case, and Jorge Torres. I'm sorry. So yes, I just want to put that out there. There, people, of course, there's going to be people taking different sides on this. They do have a history of domestic violence in their history. And as I've said, every time she would go and get him out. And it seems as though this woman, it feels to me like, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to read to you so you can put this into context. I'm going to read to you this brief little clip here about exactly what happened in the case, okay? And then I'm going to move on into what I'm picking up on from the case and, certain personal additives, okay? So let's move forward with that. So guys, it says here, we've got Jorge Torres Jr. He was 42, as I told you, they both 42 at the time, suffocated to death on February 24, 2020. They were from Winter Park, Florida. That's where this happened, after he was zipped into a suitcase. Girlfriend, she was 42 as well, Sarah Boone, she was arrested the following day and charged with second-degree murder after agreeing to go down for a police interview. You can find lots of clips of this here on YouTube of when they got out to the house, everything that was going on, and the interview that she went down and had with the police, and when they put the cuffs on and arrested her. So the background, let's see, prior to his death, let's see, Torres had been arrested multiple times for, like I said, supposed instances of domestic violence on Sarah Boone. And she had also been arrested one time for an alleged instance of domestic violence against him. So they both had this history. And guys, this is where things get complex. This is where nobody really gets the help they need, and both of you end up looking like shit. Both of you end up looking just as bad as the other one when you continue to participate in the situation, okay? And again, there are women who develop these syndromes, battered women syndrome, where they're being abused, they're being mistreated, and they just can't leave for whatever reason. They'll make attempts to, and they'll go back. They'll try to take some kind of action, and then they'll go back. They'll file charges, and then they'll get them out of jail. These syndromes are very real. This type of codependency is very real. As I stated, I grew up watching similar things in my family going on, and actually myself had to battle the wiring of codependency for many, many years, okay? And go through different trials and errors in my relationships and marriages and different learning processes and things like that. And it took me a long number of years in my life to rewire a lot of these patterns. And yes, a lot of times I stayed in situations a lot longer than I should have. I put up with things a lot longer. I was tempted to react and participate more than I should have. And I thank God to this day that the only thing that really has saved me is that early training. The fact that I was blessed enough to have a therapist, and that I was bound and determined to keep educating myself on my psychological issues, on my trauma issues, on the patterns that were wired into me, into childhood. And of course, my own higher connection to source. That's my thing. It's not everybody's thing. I thank God for all of that, because I think that's one of the major things that, saved me, even though I went through a lot of shit. All in all, when it came down to it, at the end of the day, I was always, at some point, I'm coming up out of it. I'm going to make the right decision for me. I'm going to make the right decision for all parties involved. And that is a hell of a hard thing to do. It is hard to have that much emotional maturity. It is freaking hard for many reasons sometimes, okay? We'll get back to that in a bit. Okay, moving forward. So they both had this history of attacking one another, fighting back and forth, getting charges because of it. It says that Boone, like I said, Boone had also been arrested. So Sarah had a charge on her for allegedly battery by strangulation against her boyfriend, against Torres at some point. This was in July 2018. And both Boone and Torres were arrested at that time, but her charge was dismissed that time. Torres had been arrested 4 times total for alleged battery against Boone, Sarah Boone. And like I said, each time, Sarah bailed him out. Okay, the actual incident, you guys, that was just to give you a little back context and a little backstory. The actual incident on February 25 of 2020, so this is back in the pandemic year, right before the pandemic hit, Sarah Boone contacts 911 and she informs them that her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, was deceased. Found him dead. Boone claimed that she and Torres had a bottle of wine, single bottle of wine, 1 bottle of wine, and they decided to play hide and seek. Guys, I'm kind of changing the words around, trying not to use this word for word, make it my own. I don't want any copyright claims. She claimed that they thought it would be funny to put him in the suitcase and that they were both laughing. She stated that she then went upstairs and accidentally fell asleep, leaving Torres in the suitcase. Torres' death was ruled a homicide, though. Even though, to this day, she continues to stress accident. It wasn't on purpose. The following day, Boone was asked to go to the police station to give an interview, and during that time, forensic investigators asked her for her phone. Okay. I was wondering because I got in kind of in the middle of the interview with the detectives and stuff, and they were showing her the video of what she had done. And I'm like, how the hell did they get that? How did that? Whoa, let me dig back deeper into this. How did that happen? And she was all coming unglued, and I don't want to see that. It makes me sick. Believe me, if my partner died like that, and I knew I had been responsible, oh yeah, it would make me sick too. So anyway, the search, okay, so they asked for her phone. She willingly gave it to them, and it was searched. And when they searched her phone, 2 videos that Boone had taken the night before came up. Yeah. So apparently, she was so drunk that she didn't remember filming it. She didn't remember filming herself standing there, slurring and taunting, and, him in the background in the suitcase asking, please let me out. I can't breathe in here. Over and over again. Apparently she passed out and didn't remember filming this. So here she is like, sure, here's my phone, Okay, so the videos came up. The cops see it. The videos allegedly showed Boone laughing as Torres pled for help inside the suitcase, she's stating, that's what you do when you choke me. Okay, so that's the actual quote, what I was talking about earlier, when he's asking for help and to be let out, and, I can't breathe and all that. And that's what you do when you choke me. And she says to him, that's what I feel like when you cheat on me. Quote. Boone stated that she didn't remember even recording the videos. Okay. All right, guys. The trial, she was charged with second-degree murder for killing him. Held in Orange County Jail without bail. And she's written letters to the trial judge stating that she has not been represented fairly. Eight different attorneys, guys. 8 different attorneys appointed to represent her have all withdrawn from the case. I have questions about that too. So I'm saying I'm just now finding this case and digging more deeply into it than what couple hours I spent on it today. And yeah, probably there will be a follow-up to this video, but I just kind of wanted to get it going and, open it up and talk about some of the feelings I have, surrounding a situation like this, because this is a case that really, I don't know, for some reason it really did something to me for that poor guy. And I know there are some people out there that are going to come for that as far as, well, what about her? And, she was being, domestic violence and she was being abused and, this, that, and the other. Okay, guys, we'll get into that though. I understand that perspective. But on the flip side, that is never, ever an excuse to take a human life. Never. Unless that person right then is on top of you and it is a critical emergency life and death situation and you have to fight for your life. You have to do by all means necessary to save your own life. Unless that is occurring or they are a physical threat to you, other than that, there's never an excuse to take a human life just because they cheated on you. Just because they pissed you off. They betrayed you. They mocked you. They made you feel like a fool. They made you feel insecure. I've been through it all. I've been down through it all in the past, okay? But still yet, that gives us no right to take their life. No right to do that. There's never an excuse for that. And then we're going to get into talking about where alcohol comes into play. And we're going to talk about the psychological and the spiritual aspects of what alcohol does to a person. And the way this woman was sitting there mocking this man, slowly suffocating in this suitcase, not able to breathe, scared for his life, the position she put him in. To me, it's just, it's demonic and evil. And that is what alcohol brings out of people who have not dealt with their issues responsibly. Okay? So, as far as the trial, like I said, 8 attorneys have been appointed to this woman, Sarah Boone, and they've all withdrawn. So apparently, after the withdrawal of the 8th lawyer, Boone has been deemed to have forfeited her right to court-appointed counsel, and now she's representing herself. And there are clips of all that on YouTube as well. And the trial, she is expected to use the battered women defense at trial. And this trial has not started yet. So here we go. There will be a trial, and the date is October 7th is when this trial starts for Sarah Boone, taking the life of Jorge Torres in a suitcase. And I have a lot of questions. Is this, lover's revenge, scorned lover's revenge? And it really was in some way, intentional somewhere in there? Or, is this drunken stupidity, 2 toxic lovers and drunken stupidity gone very, very wrong? Or the kinky things that lovers get into? I've been in toxic relationships before. Never gone anywhere near that damn far. But I know the things that sometimes lovers can put each other through, and how they get into it, and how they get angry, and how it fucking gets toxic, and how, it can get very intense. But I had to continue working on myself over the years too, and I'm very grateful for that. And think about it. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're about to react to, and I'll get into that later, but I could not imagine this happening to my partner. I don't care what he did to me. I don't care how it hurt. Now he never hauled off and physically attacked me. He never put hands to me. Okay? I'll get into my personal stuff a little bit later. But there were many ways in which, because of his alcoholism, that he treated me awfully at times and abused the shit out of me emotionally, mentally. And there were times where, yes, physical harassment, sleep deprivation, and following me around the house drunk, and, not letting me just take a break and get some space, and pulling me out of the bed at night sloppy drunk and harassing me, and just really pushing me to the point of my own violent rages sometimes. And then, yes, he would put hands on me to keep me off. He would, grab my arm, or, there were a couple times he grabbed me by the throat. But I'll say this. I knew eventually, if this continued, that I was going to have to make a decision to step away from the relationship. That is truly the only way to honor the person that you love. If you really love them, you can let them go. And it fucking hurts. But I knew the only way, inevitably, to honor myself, to honor my man, to honor the love that I truly had for him, and the high value, high quality love that was, the only way to really honor that was gonna be to walk away, to step away from his alcoholism and the place that he mentally and emotionally was and couldn't really get out of all the way, that programming and whatnot. So anyway, that'll be for a little bit later on. But, this really struck a nerve with me, you guys. And the bottom line is, I don't care. Now, I understand I was physically attacked and violently beaten as a child. I understand what it's like to be attacked. And so I can't speak for this woman, Sarah Boone, if she had been physically attacked by Jorge Torres before, just out of nowhere for no reason at any time or whatever, punched in the face or punched in the back or pushed or, I can't speak for that person and invalidate the anger and the pain that they would feel over being done that way. But to sit up and plot revenge on the person who did it to you, to sit up, and I know people get in these violent rages over cheating too. I know how it feels to love somebody. I know how it feels when they do you wrong. I know these feelings that come up inside. But, I will say again, at no time, no matter what my partner did, because I understood his brokenness. I understood his addiction, his disease, his programming. I understood where he was and the level that he could love me from. And, but I had a lot of psychological training before going into that relationship too. And I had a lot of therapy in my past. But don't get me wrong, there were still years that I participated and things got chaotic and fucked up and, ways in which I never wanted them to go. But at no time did I ever feel like taking revenge on him for anything, for any reason. That's not love. You are not to the point in your emotional maturity level and your emotional intelligence level yet if you feel like taking revenge on your partner. If you feel like going tit for tat, then you are still kind of elementary in your idea of love and the way that you operate, and you still have some shit in there that you need to heal and learn and grow through. Because and it's hard to get that mature, y'all. I knew this kind of shit intellectually for years. I knew it was right. But emotionally, I just couldn't bring myself to break away for a long time from certain kinds of things. But that's what I'm going to say about this. That is not love. Okay? There's obsession. There's codependency. Love can love a person enough to let them go. And oh my God, it hurts because I've had to do it. Love and respect and honor for another human being can love them enough to put boundaries down and stop participating in the toxic cycles. Because a lot of people have not had enough therapy. They don't know any different. They are recreating things from their childhood. They are recreating what mommy did, what daddy did, what they saw mommy do to daddy, what happened to them when they were kids. They're recreating patterns, familiar patterns, and they're loving in a way that they know how to love, that they were given love. That love was shown in their family dynamic. That is deeply ingrained in a lot of people. Deeply, deeply. And if they've never been to a therapist, if they've never been made aware of this kind of thing, if they haven't studied it and done the work, then that is where they're at. Okay? There's a lot of deep and complex stuff to all this, okay, you guys? And so it's not always as cut and dried as people think. Oh, well, they just don't feel love. That's it. Oh, well, they're just an asshole. That's it. They don't know shit. That's it. Oh, there was no love there. No. Human beings are far more complex than that. Far more multi-layered, multi-dimensional than that. But I will say again, there is never, ever an excuse to take a human life. Ever. And never at any point. And my partner hurt me a lot. A lot. He did the absolute most to me sometimes. Other than violently, physically put hands on or attack me in that manner. He did a lot. He hurt me in a lot of ways a lot of the time. But at no time did I ever feel like doing it back to him. Now, there were times I did react and I did respond to his behaviors and his, actions while drunk and this, that, and the other. But I remember every single time that I ever even said anything that might have hurt my partner, anything that might have made him feel less than as a man or a human being, I didn't want to. And I tried to be very careful about that. But I know what it's like in the heat of the moment sometimes, y'all. But I just remember feeling that love in my soul. And when you really do love somebody, you will stop and think about what you're doing and how it's going to make them feel. And if you're living in a situation where because of the way they act and because of their addiction, you can't love them in the healthy way that you want to, and you're always having to respond and react and be in an energy that you have outgrown, that you know is toxic, really the only and the highest, most honorable way to show them love is to walk away from that, is to stop participating in the old toxic family dynamics and patterns that they are continuing to carry on. And they will continue looking for people to participate in that. But when you have a higher self-love and you have a high value for yourself and you have a high level of love and value for them, and you really want to honor that, that is when you will stop participating. But see, these two, they had that thing going on where they just kept participating back, kept participating back, kept participating back. That's when you know you've got two very emotionally immature people that are suffering in their emotional intelligence levels and their emotional maturity levels. Hey man, life is a constant learning process for all of us. These two are in their 40s, okay? There are certain things in life that I didn't even catch on until 40. That is the year my partner and I got together. 2016, I was turning 40. And there were a lot of things that I still had to learn after 40. So, but that's what was going on in this case. And like I say, guys, her trial is set for October 7th. And I don't know. I don't know right now, since the case is so new to me. I don't really know how I think and feel. I'm still processing, as far as the outcome. And at this point in time, I'm going with that man did not deserve to lose his life that way. She said nothing about him attacking her that night. She said they were having a nice night. They were playing games, they were having fun, and they thought it would be fun to do this whole suitcase thing. So there was nothing, no violence upon her that evening. There was nothing this man apparently was doing wrong. Now, we carry shit in the back of our head, y'all, even when things are going okay. If we get cheated on, or if they flirt with somebody else, or they go out of their way to make us feel insecure or neglected or whatever, and if it's not being communicated properly and effectively, And if we're being gaslighted and told, oh, shut up, I didn't do that, or which happens a lot of the time in toxic relationships, if we're being lied to or blown off, a lot of times we women, we'll just go and sweep it under the rug and make up with our dude, but it's still burning a fucking hole in our soul. It's still hurting us every fucking day that it doesn't get resolved. And then if they do it again and again and again and again and nothing ever gets resolved, I was in a situation like that. And then you get gaslighted and lied to and flipped around and blah, blah, and minimized and invalidated, and they don't take accountability for things and they don't change things. It is our responsibility at that time to step away, okay? And I know that's fucking hard because it took me years to do it. I did not want to do it. I fought every war imaginable to hang on. But that was also a sicker part of me. That was also part of my childhood programmings and whatnot. But I was very aware of those things, and I was checking every box to be aware of it. But at the same time, I really did just love this man. And I knew that he was very, very troubled and overcome with so many things that I really wanted to stand by him on, that I really wanted to see it through with him on. Sometimes you just can't. And the only healthy, loving thing you can do is step away. Most likely follow this up with a part 2, guys. I'm sorry, the lighting is kind of bad in here. I'll most likely follow this up with a part 2 as the case goes on, when they come with the verdict. And probably get into this more deeply as far as alcohol. And that being a part of relationships, and my experiences with that. And you can just hear it in her voice. Okay. Now we're going to get over to a little bit of the energetic and spiritual, metaphysical side of these things. We've talked a little bit about the psychological stuff. Spiritually, I lived with alcohol, an alcoholic, for many, many years. A person who drank 24/7. If you think about leaving Las Vegas, think about that times 1,000, okay? This was heavy. This was hardcore. This was dark. And I love this person very deeply. And he didn't have many years left to live, And I saw and learned and witnessed and endured a lot of things. And spiritually, in those days living with him, in those years, I had to get used to different personalities. I had to get used to the sober part of him going away at a certain time of day and something else coming in and taking over. And sometimes it would be more provocative and jokester and trickster and, kind of a little tormentative streak there. Sometimes a little bit of a sadistic streak there. I knew a lot of that was his psychological traumas and unresolved pain and issues. He was going through the grief of the death of a child, lots of things, but at the same time, sometimes it would get much darker. And I personally felt energetically that he was at times in and out. His own soul was in so much pain that what was left of it, I think that a great portion of his soul had already gone back to the light. Or now this is where we would get into talking about walk-in souls, things like that are very complex spiritual topics that I do intend. I've got some content coming about those types of things. But guys, I just honestly felt like it wasn't him a great deal of the time, that he was in and out. This is not ever to excuse what people do when they are drunk. They are accountable. We as humans are always fully responsible for our actions. For whatever substance we put in our body that we know is going to intoxicate us to the point of impacting our fucking judgment, our reasoning, putting ourselves and others in danger, we are responsible for that. for drinking the alcohol that does that, for taking the drugs that does that. But what I'm saying is, still yet, even though they are accountable for this shit, I could feel different presences consuming him, because I personally feel that overuse of really any substance, but especially alcohol and fucking meth, I can't stand that shit. Any substance lowers the shit out of our vibrational frequency, for one. And it opens a portal, okay? You're already on a low vibrational frequency with that. And then depression and trauma and in going into this dark vortex. And it's really hard to fight off dark thought forms and darker energetic beings. And so I personally always felt like at the times that he was drunk, that I wasn't battling him. I loved him. I was protecting him. I was fighting for him. But at times I was having to fight him. And it's hard to explain, because I don't really mean knuckling up or him attacking, but there were some scuffles. You know, there were times where, or I would just have to stay on him, you know, like, hey, come on, stop. You know, we're driving down the road. Come on, stop. You're going to cause a wreck. Or, hey, whoa, you're going to fall over. This shit was consuming him so bad. This will be in part 2, but I had to witness horrific seizures and got to the point where he was falling down all the time, knocking his teeth out, bashing his head in. I felt that entities were consuming him. And the more he drank, the worse it got. And I felt like that they wanted to get into me too. They wanted me bad. And it took me a long time, whatever it was, when we separated. And this is not me calling him a bad person. It is not me calling him an evil person by any means. He had a beautiful, loving heart. He was a beautiful human being that I still love to this day and always will. People are more complex and multidimensional than everyone thinks. There's always more to a person. Okay? But guys, I do believe when there is alcohol in a situation, and you could just hear it in this woman's tone, I know those fuckers. A lot of times that's not them. I'm going to say it like that. You take it how you want to take it. But that human, Sarah Boone, my partner, whatever the fuck they did because of opening that portal, because of drinking so much and allowing that, they will pay the price. They will suffer because of it, and others will too. Because they keep opening that fucking portal and feeding it. Those dark entities and energies. But you could just hear it in her voice, and I've heard that voice before. It's them, but it's not them, okay? Now, I don't believe that humans can be fully possessed. I've never believed it. I believe that our soul is protected, as Dolores Cannon teaches in her work. That it is fully protected, but I do believe that beings in the lower astral, which is the dimension closest to ours, that there are dark beings, just like what happens during sleep paralysis when people report feeling, sensing, seeing those presences. I've been there and done that too. They're there. That lower astral realm, which is definitely what we have to go through to get to the higher dimensions, there are lost souls. There are dark energies and dark entities that haven't gone back to the light yet. Some of them, like Dolores Cannon teaches, they don't know they're dead. Whatever the fuck is going on there, they like to hang around lower vibrational humans that drink, that party, that drug, that gamble, that whatever. Not that I'm being judgmental. I don't give two shits. You know, people do what they do, whatever. I don't like to hurt others. I wish other people wouldn't, but you get what I'm saying. These entities like to hang around lower vibrational human beings who do all the things they used to do. And they like to try, and they can't, but they want to try to get back in human form. This is all complex spiritual shit. This is a lot of Dolores Cannon's teachings, but it's really interesting to me. And I do believe that human beings can be influenced by these types of energies. Absolutely, no question, okay? Can be highly influenced, but ultimately it's our responsibility to protect our energy, to protect our mind, to protect our thoughts, our actions. It's our fucking responsibility. So if you're opening that portal by constantly chugging alcohol down your freaking throat, or constantly getting out of your body with substances, overuse and severe extreme use of substances, then you are leaving yourself open spiritually. Absolutely, I feel that way. And so when you hear her voice on that recording, the way she was mocking and scoffing at him, and this man is begging for his life, and he had not been a threat to her that day, like, you know, even if he had been in the past, you know, clearly, I know that women sometimes have syndromes where even if they are terrified of a guy, they'll go back. But generally, if you're really, really terrified that someone is going to bring harm upon you, I can't say for certain that people wouldn't go back, because I know people that have, but I don't know, man. I just still have a lot of questions about this case. There's some things that just don't add up. Like, you know, playing a game of get in the suitcase, hide and seek, like, what the hell? And I'm still thinking, like, he's a grown-ass man. Like, you know, I guess this is just movies, but I've seen shit where people have busted their way out of far worse things than suitcases when it came down to their freaking breath and survival. And I'm just like, damn, man. You know, and I don't know if there are any reports of her hitting him with anything. And I think someone speculated that she may have knocked him out for a bit and put him in there, may have drugged his drink and put him in there, you know, and that part, I guess I don't know. There are still many questions that I have, that this man just willingly went and got in a suitcase and let this woman zip him in there, but couldn't get out. I mean, and it just kind of makes me think about it, like, how would you get out of a damn, you know, what if I was in that situation and, okay, I've just got my bare hands and I've got this thick ass suitcase cloth, or hell, it might have been one of those really heavy duty suitcases. I don't know. I couldn't really tell. I have to go back and look at the videos. I mean, yeah, you're up against a lot. If you're not getting out of one of those more durable plastic, whatever they're made out of, that, you know, but I'm thinking if it was cloth, you know, I know it would be tough, but I would think that there would be some way to tear or claw or find a way to rip that fucking suitcase open to get out and get some air. You know, and it makes me wonder, was he really drunk? Was he drugged? Did she hit him? There was some speculation that she had pushed it down the stairs with him in it before it landed on the bottom, and she finally started filming. But you can just hear what sounds like evil in her voice. And I'm sorry, but to me, that is what alcohol does to people. But that is not to say they're not responsible when sober, that they're not ultimately responsible. And yes, it would reflect back on something they have irresponsibly not addressed in their life. Old wounds, childhood abuse, childhood trauma, anger with their partner, resentment that keeps getting buried and buried. That's why I always made it a point to confront my partner, regardless if it was embarrassing or annoying or whatever. I would not just sit there and pretend and stuff it down and stuff it down. because boy, that brews some shit inside of people that can make it really dangerous. It's not healthy. People need to be having healthy conflict resolution and healthy confrontations and conversations, because ultimately, if you don't, it can become toxic and even deadly in certain cases. Okay, guys, I am going to conclude this video. I probably, like I say, I'll follow up with a part 2. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and get back to work on my other content. I've been working really hard on my series about sleep paralysis, my years of experience with sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences, and all of that stuff. But I will see you guys in the next video. I thank you for being here. I thank you for watching. And I'll see y'all in the next one.